I should have introduced it that way. The sun in the houses, and we already put the moon in the houses out, and this is Mercury through the houses. Astrology. Let's talk about Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the mind, the intellect, the one who plays a lot of jokes on us. He's the trickster as well as a magician. Let's talk about what he does when he's in one of the 12 whole sign houses in your chart. If you're born with Mercury in one of 12 houses, he's doing one of 12 different jobs for you in this lifetime. We're not talking about the sign that he's sitting in. We're talking about the whole sign house. What is a whole sign house, you ask? Well, if you take my free video tutorial down below, you'll learn how to cast your chart in the traditional whole sign house system. And this is the system we use in order to make predictive timing tools using what we call Time Lord tools. So if you are a lover of Placidus or any other house system, I'm fine with that. But you show me how you can time your best life using non-whole sign house systems, and I will definitely be surprised. In the meantime, we're talking about one whole sign house, not your Placidus chart. Mercury, the messenger, the mercurial one, the one who contributes to our intellect in the first house. Well, Mercury in the first house is in the sign of his joy. In the tradition of the Hellenistic style of astrology, this is the place where he's the strongest. People with Mercury here have an apt mind. They are full of ideas. They are people who know how to make other people laugh, and they're adept at socialization. They're really good to be around. You notice people like to hang with you, you're good fun. If you're an orator, a speaker, a writer, if you're a researcher or analyzer or a comedian, this is the ideal spot for Mercury. Mercury tends to take on the flavor of whatever he touches. And so he's touching the ascendant place, the character you play in the simulation of life. This means that you are very mercurial in the eyes of others. You might be very quick-witted. You might have a very fine intellect. You might be able to be extremely funny. A lot of comedians will have a strong placement for Mercury, and one of the classic is the first house. Mercury in the first house is also a person who is curious. Your character wants to understand things. You want to do your research, as they said during the old pandemic. You want to understand the way you work, the way the world works, the way your friends work. Your mind is extremely active. It is always questing for deeper knowing and understanding of how things operate. You could become an information junkie, so be careful. You could be a disseminator and distributor of information as well. Not a bad placement if you have a job in which communicating to others is a part of what you do. Mercury is the idea of the hermaphrodite or the eunuch or the one without gender. And in this regard, you probably can be associated by many people's perception of you as being gender fluid, bisexual, or maybe not quite identifiable as fully masculine or fully feminine, which is interesting because Mercury's symbol is the sun, which is the solar principle, the masculine principle, with a crescent moon above it, the feminine or the female principle over the cross of matter. This is indicating that there is already an embedding of the both masculine and feminine qualities within Mercury himself. And therefore, your character in the simulation, Mercury in your first house, the place of the ascendant, you may not be easily definable by other people or yourself in terms of what you consider to be your sexual or gender identity. That said, you are also mercurial. Mercurial means you're going to change your form. It means that you're quicksilver. It means that your mind is changeable, but so is your ideas of life. You probably are able, for the most part, to move into new positions of thought without objecting to that. You're not going to be stuck with one way of seeing the world or one understanding. Now, sign matters, right? There are signs that are more adaptable and changeable than others, but today we're just talking about how a mercurial energy may play out in the first house where your ascendant is. Mercury represents youthfulness, and if you are Mercury first house, you're going to be young for the most of your life. I don't care if you look old or you feel old, you're going to act young. People will like you and think that you are youthful, especially younger people. A lot of times I've noticed people with Mercury in the first house are easily friendly with younger generations than themselves, to the point where even hanging out with young kids in a playground is just fine. You're able to span the generations to be that person who can befriend all because you're eternally youthful. You got that spirit of youth. The messenger of the gods, some of you might want to be that. You might define yourself as I channel God, or I tell you the truth because I have a hotline to the heavens. I'm in touch with the upstairs guy, headquarters and me, we're one. So there is that. I've seen a lot of spiritual gurus and teachers over the years have a strong first house Mercury placement. All right. And lastly, when Mercury is in your first house, there's just something about your relationship to the idea that life is a magical place and you can be the maestro of synchronicity, the observer of it, and the magician in the tarot. It's almost like you want to channel God's will on earth. And there's a part of you that's always a vector, right? A vector for that information flow from beyond your own personhood. Be aware, of course, you might have other planets in your first house, like Venus or Jupiter, and that's going to temper Mercury. Mercury always takes on the flavor of planets near him. All right, so we can't say that. I'm looking at your chart, but you got the idea. All right, Mercury in the second house of money. Mercury rules markets, merchandising, and mercantile. When we talk about the stock markets, we think about Mercury. When we talk about buying, selling, trading, and bartering, we think about Mercury. Mercury was actually the guy who could be the protector of travelers on the road, but he also had a lot to do with peaceful negotiations. And when we talk about the art of the deal, we're talking Mercury. Mercury in your second house is like, hey, that's a money house. That's where you earn. That's where you save. That's your pocketbook, wallet. That's your resources financially. Sometimes when Mercury's here, because it represents a resource-rich place that you attain money or financial wellness, including food, shelter, and water, you may use Mercury as a form of how you make money, right? You may be a speaker, an orator. You might be a marketer or seller. You may make money through being in professions that Mercury rules. He can be involved along with Jupiter in fields of education. You might be a mailman, the little fleet-footed mailman symbol in the United States Postal Service is Mercury, delivering the messages. You might be somebody who uses the Mercury energy in life to be comedic and make money that way, right? That could be a livelihood for you. And the other thing about Mercury here is that you're pretty good, if you want, at the art of negotiating. What you use that power for, verbally, especially to negotiate deals, to make a pact with somebody, that win-win combinations, right? Is up to you. Mercury's placement in your second house gives you that talent or that ability, should you so choose to use it. He will be situated in an Artha house, which means he's opened up the channel of success for you in your work and your career. So your 10th house, 6th house, second house work energy field is extremely important to you. Mercury wants you to make a living. He wants you to be financially viable when he is in your second house. And for those of you who struggle with money, you want to look at who rules Mercury in your chart, which planetary body rules him, which is the sign he is sitting in. But that's for another day. That's when we get to, Mercury through the signs. I'd like Mercury in the second house for people's speech, because I notice that they're really good at talking. And it depends on which sign it is, what type of talking you do, like Mercury and Leo in the second house, leaderful, big, bold communication styles, right? But Mercury is a good orator in any situation, in any house, but you put him in the house of speech, right? That's what the second house is, speech. Yeah, you guys can talk, man. You can talk to the nature of the sign that it's in, right? Aries might be aggressive speech, and Libra would be harmonious and diplomatic speech. But your ability to talk in ways that suit the sign in which we're talking about, right? Whatever sign is happening in your second house is important. What about Mercury in the third house? Mercury in the third house is in the house of siblings. There is going to be a life, of course, in which your communication and connection to your siblings in general might be an extremely important feature, and being able to communicate freely with those siblings and engage in idea sharing with your siblings, and as well as travel. Mercury is the ruler. Well, not the ruler. Mercury has a protective way of keeping travelers on the road safe from banditos, part of his ancient role, if you know what I mean. And so a lot of you might want to travel a lot. This is a shorter distance travel, Mercury in the third house, but you could travel a lot, long distance as well. And you're always traveling under the feeling that you've got this kind of benevolent protector for your travels will be safe, and you will meet the people on the road, like the messengers and the messengers on the road that you need to meet. So your travels are often quite fascinating and serendipitous for you. And that brings us to synchronicity. This is the house of the goddess. The third house is where we see that thing to do with prophecy and crystal ball gazing and oracleship in that kind of smaller way, like the witches and the gypsies and the entrails and the tea leaf readers. Mercury down here opens up that channel. So you may want to communicate telepathically. You may want to go Vulcan mind meld, my mind to your mind. You might be really good at intuitive communication styles with other people, including maybe working in a capacity as some kind of psychic reader, intuitive reader, guiding people with intuitive stuff. There is the quality of Mercury in the third house where you're very likely able and quite interested in socializing with the people who live in the neighborhood. This is the hood, the area around your domicile. This is your everyday grocery store and gas station and library and the neighbors. And so you might be a natural social beast in that area of the local environment. You might just be, it doesn't mean you could be you could be like an introvert like me. You might not really be a natural party socializer with the neighborhood block party. I'm not, but I certainly always talk to all of the people in the stores, right? I'm always chatting up the lady at the 7-Eleven or whatever. So you're naturally sociable in the local environment, right? You have an ease there for most of the time. This is a house of writing, and Mercury is a communications god. And of course, the third house is your hands, right? Arms and hands. So your skills-based learning, skills-based teaching, writing. Mercury gives you great power and strength here. I have Mercury in my third house, right? So I write, I teach, I speak. I used to do psychic readings. You might find that this is a really good placement for social media. We didn't have it before. This was the house of media. Like I'm a journalist, right? Which I used to be. So your ability to be in the media industry, whether it's online or not, is very heightened. And you may be an announcer, a broadcaster, a communicator, a writer in the media fields, including our social media online landscape as well, which I now call our virtual neighborhood. Because where Mercury is sitting in the third house, he's close to the fourth house. And we'll get to this when we get to the fourth. There's a very strong chance that you may remain youthful as you age out, right? You'll seem younger than your years because he represents the youthful spirit. And the third, fourth, and fifth house are parts of the sky that define the end of our life and how we are as we age out to the final days of our life. And so there's quite a strong possibility that you'll have either a youthful spirit, a youthful voice, or just appear youthful to others as you become a little old lady and a little old man, hopefully anyway, at the end of your life. Hopefully you get to have the little old lady and man experience. A lot to say about Mercury there if he was with other planets, right? So I'm not going to. Right. But if your Mercury is with the sun, you are literally a messenger of the divine. Right. So Mercury sun proximity anywhere in the chart, but especially the third house, because it is the house of communication. And so with Mercury close to the sun, let's say within 10 degrees of either side of the sun in your chart, you are very possibly called by the universe to be a divine messenger for the gods, so to speak, to deliver spiritual messages or divine messages or information into the landscape of the world. Yeah, I have Mercury about 12 degrees for my sun, so yeah, I'm sort of like that, but I can imagine someone who has Mercury sun conjunctions and they're out there with third house placements telling the whole world about, maybe like, what is it, Esther Hicks channeling Abraham. Maybe that's that kind of story. What about Mercury in the fourth house? Mercury in the fourth house, people, are you listening? Mercury in the fourth house is in a place that we would define as connected to your home, your children, your childhood, and your parents, your homeland. Mercury here is definitely a guarantee that you'll either be quick-witted, bright-minded, and intelligently, mentally active, short of a debility, when other planets are with him, in your last years of life. And that you might even be, again, like the fifth house, very youthful and very high-spirited and very socially engaged in the end of your life. But the fourth house, unlike the third, is really also your childhood, your growing up, your mom and dad stories, your experience of childhood. And Mercury here could be something to do with how you experienced your childhood. Mercury was your childhood full of books? Did your parents want you to read? Was there a lot of talking around the table when you were little at, dinner time with the family? Mercury can be about a lot of chatter in your childhood, a lot of communication going on in your household. Maybe it was just noisy. Maybe the TV was always blaring. Maybe there was a lot of information or news coming through your home when you were growing up. Mercury is very much about one's mind, what you think about, intellectualize about in reality. I'm wondering, for some of you, you have a lot of your life path in which you rationalize, think about, intellectualize your childhood. Upside of that might be you've done like a, what do you call it, a genogram, a genealogy report, or you've researched and studied your family and your experience of being a child. You don't want to over intellectualize everything about your life and your history and your ancestral line, but you could certainly be a curious researcher of it and want to share more of that information with others that you also grew up with. So there's a bit of the inventory of my family, the researcher of the family, the one who has all the information. You might be the one that keeps all the photo albums and even has the family Bible and the the family heirlooms, even, because you're kind of the archivist of the family system and also of the lineage and the ancestral line that came before you. Your parents may have stressed education and learning because Mercury is about learning. And so you might have grown up in a family that's erudite, that values education and learning. You may have adopted those values from your family because of Mercury's placement in your fourth house while you grew up. Mercury in the fourth house may be a lot to do with a parental relationship being highly dynamically communicative. Particularly, I like the Vedic system that the fourth is the house of the mother. And so maybe your mother relationship involved a lot of communication, a lot of talking, a lot of fluidity, maybe even so easy socializing with mom once you grew up. But, remember, Mercury could be debilitated. So if you say, oh, it doesn't fit at all, well, Mercury might be like square Saturn conjunct Pluto. We're not talking about the subtleties, just the archetype of the home and the meaning that Mercury carries. Finally, you might come from a family of traders. They might be like seafaring traders, or they might be traders on the spice trade, or you might come from an ancestral line of people who are involved in the markets, finance, banking, mortgages, and loans. You might have that. You might also have an ability to engage in real estate transactions really well, to market, sell, and buy, and finance real estate. This may be a natural ability for Mercury fourth house people. Mercury in your fifth house. Mercury in the fifth house is kind of a party animal, man. It makes me think of Animal House, right? Because he's got a social ability vibe. He's Mr. Sociability. And then you stick him in a house of pleasure, fun, and, good times are rolling. So a lot of times when you have Mercury in the fifth house, you're probably naturally able to find socialization, engaging, have a good time, be the life of the party sometimes. The fifth house can be about your own relationship to the muse, like whether you're a writer, an artist, a mad scientist. How is the muse communicating with you? Well, Mercury would like to channel God's messages straight to your muse and the muse to you, right? So Mercury you can have a facility with the muse bringing you incredible ideas and, having these kind of downloads and using those ideas and making a new business model, a creativity, a scientific discovery. The fifth house is your natural talents and gifts to which you were tasked to express. You were born with those abilities. It's here for you. You must learn to use it. You must adapt to it. You must become it. So you're naturally born with mercurial talents, which are, of course, communication, speech, negotiation, selling and marketing, deal making, humor and comedy. So if your Mercury is in the fifth house, you may express mercurial abilities in this lifetime, including scientific ones and educational and learning abilities as well. This is the house of your children, and this would technically be the house of a firstborn as well. There's a lot to do with children in general or firstborn child. I'm going to say you probably are going to parent generally with a youthful spirit. In other words, there are parents who coddle, control, their children. And then there are parents who treat their children like individual people and connect with them on a more peer-like relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that. One way or the other, you choose your parenting style. It would be probably likely you're naturally going to deflect to being a camaraderie, peer relationship, treat my kid like a person rather than some kind of kids that should be seen and not heard. You probably like games with your children. This is a house of competition. Mercury loves games of chance. He's the ballot at the ballot box during an election. He's that lottery ticket guy too. This is a gambling and speculation house. You might have an affinity for taking some risks financially, buying riskier stocks, speculative stocks, penny stocks in the markets, buying tickets, bingo halls, gambling, casinos, fun and games of chance. Mercury says, let's go for it. Let's have some fun. Let's do this thing. And maybe your children will show comedic humor, or especially a firstborn, a love of learning, an ability with, lucky breaks with gambling or something. Maybe one of your kids has some of those House of Good Fortune Mercury traits as well. And I think sometimes when I see people with Mercury in the fifth house, relationships and falling in love, romantic love, infatuation love, that belongs to the fifth house. And Mercury is about communicating. And I guess I could say something as simple here as I bet a lot of you Mercury fifth house people aren't turned on by brawny bodies or, big busty gals or whatever. You're turned on by the intellect of your partner, the ability to communicate with your partner, to share and exchange ideas with your partner. Okay, that's going to be where the juice would be in romantic tendencies for you. There may be other planets in your fifth house, but that one planet, Mercury, would ask for intellectual exchange, idea exchange, communicating as a main feature of attraction. A first date with someone who says nothing to you, doesn't answer your questions and barely talks, or if they do talk, you don't find it like intellectually stimulating or up to snuff, won't probably work for you. You'll notice that. Hopefully you'll notice that pattern. The fifth house could be the house of a sibling 2 younger than you in birth order. Okay. 2 younger in birth order. Also 4 older than you. So a sibling 4 above you in birth order, born 4 above, and 2 below, right? So you were born, and another kid was born, and another kid was born. That kid is 2 below you. Your child born 2 after you, and 4 above you, before you. Those are the ones that have the Mercury fifth house placement for you. And so you might find them fun to be with. You might have a lot to talk about. You might find them really camaraderie and compatible for you. You might find them stimulating intellectually. You might find a connection to those 2 siblings, 2 below you, 4 above you, quite interesting. And there's a quality of peer quality, friendship quality with Mercury. It's like you're friends with those siblings. You also want to be friends with your lovers. You don't want, and quite often Mercury in the fifth house means when you break up with a lover, you guys stay friends. You would like it to be that way. Whether you can always pull it off is not the point, right? I mean, again, Mercury could be debilitated, like wedged between malefics or something. But the tendency of Mercury would be to end relationships in a friendly way and to remain in an easy friendship about it, to take it in a more lighthearted way, best one can when it comes to a breakup, right? Mercury in the 6th house of work, sometimes pets, rental property, debts. Now, if you have a natural affinity with debt-related structures, like you work in a finance industry and Mercury's in your 6th house, you might be somebody who procures mortgages or escrow stuff or mortgage broker. You might be involved in transactions involving debts, money, finance, refinancing. Okay. So it could be a very strong professional direction, right? You might be very mercurial in those ways in the house of your work and your job and your livelihood. Mercury in the 6th house as well is about the communicating ability in the house of household pets. And while this sounds nuts, you might be the one who talks to your dog and cat, your guinea pig and your parrot. You might be the one who says they're talking back. You might have almost like the Vulcan mind meld with your animals. You may feel as if you're in telepathic communion with your pets. And if you have pets, you definitely probably talk to them and they probably understand you. And you probably do know that they're talking back the best they can. Mercury in the 6th house is good for working in a rental industry, whether you're going to be a landlord or a leasee in some way, managing property rentals, building rentals, Airbnb rentals. This is a house of temporary accommodations connected to servants' quarters, really, in the ancient world. So your likelihood of being able to be in an industry like that for the 6th house can be a livelihood and workplace is very important. When it comes to sickness, because this is a house of illness, when it comes to sickness, Mercury here is going to put you down a research rabbit hole. As soon as you have a health problem, you're going to be right down the rabbit hole. But Mercury also rules the lungs. He's connected to the what else is Mercury? The intellect, the neurological system of the brain, and the neurons, and the firing of the body's electrical system. So he does connect to those parts of the body. There's probably other ones that I'm not thinking of right now. And so mercurial related health problems, the messenger's health problems may be something you're going to tackle in this lifetime. I would add to that, since he's a communicating guy, any debility medically with communication, whether it's like you have a stutter or there's something going on with your ability to properly communicate. Well, that could include neurological degeneration. So you want to pay attention to your lungs. You want to pay attention to your neurology in this lifetime. Mercury in the 6th house may be very much about your ability to socialize with the work staff, your employees. You'll have a good time, go out to the bar after work, hang with the employees, or because if you're an employer, if you're an employee, you would love to hang out with your colleagues and other fellow employees in a work setting. You'll be more likely to socialize with others after work than everybody normally would be, and enjoy that probably. And the idea here about your workspace, Mercury likes to have ready access to information. So I don't know, it depends on what kind of work you're doing, whether that's required, but like you'd be the kind of person who, say you were a law clerk or something, you'd have every book handy, bookshelves around you. Now today we have Grok and AI and ChatGPT and stuff like that. I'm recording this July of 2026, if you're watching this 25 years from now. And but ready access to information connected to livelihood is important for you. Somehow you can be you need information nearby for whatever you're doing professionally. Your ability to negotiate debt, right? So to talk the credit card company down to a lower rate, to finesse a business deal and negotiate the fine terms, especially if it's corporate, flowing to the 10th house and money. You could be a really good broker, a really good in-between person, corporate mergers and acquisitions type person, brokering deals connected to work environments. Mercury in the 7th house is your marriage house. It's also business partners. It's also your audience and marketplace. You could be throwing a lot of communications into the audience and marketplace. You mean by that kind of person who has a daily post on Substack, or that you put a video out a day on YouTube, or that you are a famous movie star or movie star, whatever. What do you call it? Like you're a Madonna type and you're always posting on your Instagram your latest god awful videos, and whatever. Sorry, I think she's lost her mind lately. There's a need to dispense information into the public, because the 10th house from your 10 houses from your 10th house is the 7th. It's like it's the outpicturing in the world of your activities in your career. And so if your career requires you to just dispense information into the world of any kind, news, information, data, ideas, then you're going to be very prolific and very good at it. Okay. I think you're likely want to marry somebody that you find has a sense of humor above all, that makes you laugh, that you love chatting with. And just like the romance house, their ideas are worthy of your attention. You're intellectually compatible. You can negotiate with your partner in business or love. You want that ability to make a deal, to talk it out. You don't want a highway or my way type person. You want a friend. Mercury in the 7th house, people are attracting a partner who feels like a friend, often a peer, often not far off in their own age difference, a couple, 2 or 3 years above or below your own age. You're looking for a companionable friend in life, a partner friend for life. And so when you find that kind of person, you're going to try to stick with them. And if you end a marriage, you're probably aiming very much most of the time to make the ending friendly, right? A namaste. It was great to see you again in this life. I wish you the best going forward. Hard feelings are avoided at all costs when you have Mercury in the 7th house, when a relationship's ending, when it comes to an end. You might have a marriage early in life. You might end up, because Mercury rules youth, right? And you might have gotten married extremely early by modern standards, at least in one of your marriages you've had more. Mercury is the ruler of the double-bodied sign of Gemini and Virgo. That can indicate more than one marriage, but it can also indicate attracting a bisexual person, somebody who swings both ways, or any of those sorts of stories, right? Going, into a relationship with someone who's queer. You are not necessarily that. You can be, but you'll attract people like that to you, even if they're just important, significant friends in your life. When it comes to legal contracts and negotiations, you've got the art of the deal. Forget Donald Trump. You got the art of the deal. Your ability to negotiate in contractual legal matters should be quite superlative. If you don't know that yet, you should learn that. The seventh house is like the golden years, right? It's before you're old and decrepit, but you've still got some spring in your step, right? So you're probably in the retirement phase of life, but you're not decrepit. So there's this in-between zone. Sorry about that. Decrepit sounds bad, but you're in the in-between between like the fading glory and you've mastered your career. Now you're in between. Now that zone in our modern world, right, of the golden years is often like playing golf and going to the bridge tournaments or whatever people do. I don't even know. The garden club. Fine. People fill their end days with hobbies. But in a more ancient tradition, this would be when you do a spiritual sadhana and you quest for God and you find your spiritual practice and you become, after being a working person, householder, and raising your children, the seventh house part of the sky can represent where you want to step into your seeking of your guru and finding your spiritual path in life. And if Mercury's here, you're going to want to do it through knowledge. There's Bhakti is devotion, and Mercury represents the moving to spiritual lessons through acquiring information and knowledge. So you might find books like The Power of Now or something. You might be finding teachers are data rich teachers, right? They're not like, we're all going to sit around and hug each other like the hugging saint or something. We're going to talk spiritual ideas. We're going to learn about spiritual ideas. We're going to study the scriptures, that kind of thing. But it can mean that for anyone who has Mercury in the seventh house, as you reach your golden years, you're at post-retirement, but you're not like on a, in a hospice bed, that is the place where your spiritual curiosity is meant to be piqued, like Piqued. You want to find your spiritual path. You want to get into spiritual knowledge and learning, right? That's where you're going to start that journey if you are into that. Otherwise, you just might be doing a lot of golfing or garden club or something like that. Moving to the eighth house. Mercury in the eighth house, according to Firmicus Maternus, the ancient astrologer of 2,000 plus years ago, said Mercury is the astrologer priest to kings here. And he said this is the only planet that's really happy in the eighth house. Go figure. My daughter has that. I've seen it in real-time clients as a natural psychic ability. And actually, I think you guys talk to dead people, or you dream of dead people, or you pierce the realms. If you have debility with Mercury, you might be afraid of your abilities, but you can pierce your intellect and your mind into different realms. You're able to communicate. You're able to put up like a transmission and receiver, like a walkie-talkie to the dead, to the angels, to the other dimensions. And you also can acquire occult knowledge. Now, that means tarot, numerology, astrology can be included, hermetic wisdom, and that knowledge and that paranormal, supernatural stuff as well is something you should be curious about. You should be into it at some point in your life's journey, and you may be very good at it. And again, the advisor, the astrologer, priest to kings and, people in power, to take on an advisory role with people in power, whether it's occult or just like, yeah, I'm that person's finance accountant. Speaking of which, this is not a bad placement for someone who learns to be a bookkeeper, an accountant, who works in banking industries and stock trading industries as well. Mercury here can make you very facile and fast moving. Like instead of long-term trading, you might want to be a medium to short-term trader, right? It's not Saturn here. It's like unless you have Saturn there too, you're going to want to be like Quicksilver, day trading, that kind of thing. But your mind is analytical when it comes to matters of other people's money. So an accountant, a broker, a financial analyst, maybe natural places that you're drawn to. It seems a far cry to go from financial analyst to occultist. I get that, but both are true. Both are true. And you can express either depending on the rest of your chart. I'd love to know in the comments, by the way, I prefer to ask you guys, how is this resonating? How are you feeling about this? All of the signs. When Mercury's in the eighth house, the world of psychology draws you. You're interested in the psyche, the soul. And that's because this is a moksha liberation. And this liberation here from the dream of life, the matrix itself, is to liberate from the egoic identity, the conscious identity of who you think you are, and find out who you really are. And in this regard, you're always drawn to curiosity around the mind of the human being, right? A lot of times, psychologists, therapists, research scientists to do with psychology, consciousness research will have a strong Mercury placement here. I said strong because maybe it's Mercury in his home kingdom or Mercury with a Jupiter or whatever. But, this is like the intellectually curious person to uncover what is hidden, and whether it's occult, which means hidden, mysteries and knowledge, or it's to understand the psyche of the mind. So again, I see a lot of therapists with lots of planets in the 8th house. Finally, royalty income, passive income, Google AdSense income, Mercury, receiver of marketing and merchandising. You could be one of those people that makes money. Money makes money for you in this life, or you have residual passive income sources in this lifetime. Okay. Mercury in the 9th house is literally a voracious learner. The 9th house is your higher education, right? It's going off to campuses and colleges and ivory tower settings. It's being mentored and guided rather than taking a weekend workshop by someone else in a field of learning. It's very much about the desire for Mercury to attain wisdom and knowledge from parchment scrolls, papers, and books. So there is a sense of you being learned or desiring to be that way. And you may find yourself attracted to libraries. You may become a librarian, a research analyst, somebody who works in courts, like a clerk, right? Judges and courts are here. You could go into law. Mercury here wants to pierce deeply with his mind into the scriptures, so to speak, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Quran. And because, did I forget anybody? No. And because of that, you probably will have at some point in your life a natural curiosity to read these types of texts, or to read at least the AI summary. You know what I'm saying? Mercury is mercurial. He's changeable. It's very unlikely you'd stick to one path, but you could become a scholar of comparative religion, or a scholar of contemporary religious studies, or all of that. You could also be very scholarly, and you could be very much a professor in this lifetime, a researcher, a scholar, a professor. Now, there's a kind of hand of the king here in the 9th house. This is different than the astrologer priest of the king. You could end up in administrative positions of power close to the top dog, right? Like Susie Wiles in the White House, the chief of staff. You could end up in positions of support of a particularly significant king, so to speak, someone in a position of 10th house power, and you're the second in command, or the backup unit, or the understudy, or the one helping them. So you could find yourself in proximity to power, but not necessarily holding that power, but being in an advisory, guiding, mentoring, supportive role to those people in power because of your ideas, because of your ability to communicate, because of your intellect. When I think of Mercury being the ruler of 2 double-bodied signs, if you go to university, you get a double major. You go like, I got a major in English and mass communications or something. I had a psych and mass communications in my undergrad degree. What the hell that means, I don't know, but I did it anyway. So you will either do that or you'll go back to school. Youth, right? You're youthful, playful, spirited, high-spirited energy when it comes to learning, means your thirst for learning will carry through into your old age. You're the type of person usually that will go back to school more than once, or again, study a wide variety of things in academic settings. Don't limit yourself. Get more than 1 degree, or again, double degrees like I just said, right? So let me know if any of you have experienced any of that. Mercury loves to protect travelers on the road. He's a protector of pilgrimages and pilgrimagers, off to see the temple oracle. And this is the house of the oracles in the temples. And so you may want to do pilgrimage off to the Camino, off to see your guru in India. You may almost also just love travel. You have a thirst and a natural curiosity about the world, about the nature of every country, the culture, the people. Mercury 9th house people don't travel to hang out with their bus crew on a tour of Tuscany with their fellow Canadians or whatever, and then go home, all organized for you, all itinerary set out. No, there's a spirit of youthful wandering here. And a lot of times you want to engage in learning about the language, especially of a foreign culture, the religion and cultural norms of a different land and people. So you guys are always like, I'll travel to, Spain, but I'm going to learn some Spanish either before I go or while I'm there. And you want to know about the foods and how to make them and why the people eat them. And you're curious about other countries, other people, other styles of living. And you're not judgmental either. Usually, right? You're like, yeah, this is really cool. I can't believe it. You probably come back from your trips with tall tales of what you learned when you ate the monkey brains under the Tuscan sun or something. So you're definitely that kind of character. And you might write and publish, right? Write papers for your university, publish, in academic settings, write scholarly essays, but you can all, and law books and all that. But you can also just want very much to write in the field of publications. Like you don't want to write for a rag where you put some piece of news out every day and it's gone. Like, you want to leave a mark, a legacy mark. You want it to be a contribution. You want it to be meaningful if you're writing. So if you're writing up here, then you're writing so that you can deliver a product that lasts beyond you, like a book. Okay. If you're listening to this 30 years from now and books don't exist, then this is so weird when you do this stuff. I could be talking to you 30 years later. Then, whatever you consider a consolidated form of measured knowledge and wisdom that is retaining that, okay, rather than discarding it like a newspaper one day. The sibling that is 4 younger than you in birth order or 2 older than you in birth order also belongs to the 9th house. Okay, so there may be a strong connection to that sibling as well. A communication, a camaraderie, a joyful laughter, easy connection and flow of mind-to-mind communication, intellectual and maybe shared value systems as well. When we talk about Mercury in the 10th house, Mercury in the 10th house is in a work, career, attainment place. And if you're like wanting to be seen as mercurial by the world in the high noon of the sky, you could be a comedian on a stage. You could be a famous writer. You could be known for your ability to negotiate deals. You might be somebody with Mercury in the 10th house. Same with the 11th. We'll get to that, where you are noted by the world as the magician archetype, the one who channels the divine and kaboom, earth, air, water, and fire in the tarot. You make things happen. You make things happen. You could be very much actually a magician. Some of you may have that. And you've done like tricks and party cards and magician-like tricks in the world. You might be very humorous in the eyes of the world, but you also might be very sociable in the work setting. So this is where, like the 6th house Mercury, you're like focused very much on enjoying the social connections, the sharing of ideas, the talking and communicating with others connected to your professional environment. So if you were like the boss, you'd be talking all the time at or you wouldn't care. You'd be talking at the coffee cooler kitchen area with everybody, rather than hiding out in your office space, right? Maybe going after work to hang out with people in work, right? Rather than just be an isolationist, because Mercury is naturally a social beast. Mercury in the 10th house puts a strong premium on you having something to say. Your role can be very mercurial to do with the finances of some situation. Like if you're a corporate guy, you might be a chief financial officer. And that's going to be true when we get to the 11th house, but it's also true in the 10th house. You're in the 10th house. Mercury is often seen as somebody that everybody wants to hang with. Like in any kind of profession, whether you're famous, which you could be for mercurial activities, or you're not, you're the easygoing one there. People don't find you, like if you're an actor and then people are reviewing you, post-production, man, I heard he was really tough to work with. No one on the cast liked her or him. That's not your role. You're in the professional environment and you are well liked. You're easy to get along with. You're companionable. You're friendly. You're fun. You carry the gesture inside of you. You probably make people laugh in your work environment. The art of networking is critical with Mercury in the 10th house. It's like you're getting your work success because you know how to network. You are a schmoozer. You can cross all boundaries. You might be the one who goes from, like Mercury went from the underworld to the upper world freely, which no other god could do. So you can transverse many realms corporate wise. You could go like In other words, you'd be great for mergers and acquisitions, but you'd be really good as well at just being able to facile layers of how you, like an opera singer, what your audio range is, your communication ability range is massive. Being a marketing specialist, a promotional like PR, marketing, those kinds of jobs, selling. Strategies for marketing and selling. These are features of who you are. They could be very career oriented with Mercury in your 10th house. You could use your voice, right? You could sing, you could write, and those are expressions in the 10th house of how your ideas and voice get shared with the world. It's very nuanced depending on what other planets are activating Mercury, right? So Mercury, Jupiter, you're a world leader or teacher. Mercury, Uranus, you're a mad scientist in the 10th house. But this is a career feature. So I tried my best to just give you the simple Mercury ideas. Now, when we move Mercury, and Mercury is your kind of authority figures, father figures, people in power, and you're probably friendly with them. And I can almost picture you guys sometimes as like the one who gets along with everybody. Like, you're talking with this prime minister, then this president, and then this movie star. I'm just going to say, if you have high level authority contacts, everybody likes you and you're kind of the interface. And reminds me of the book, The Tipping Point, where you might be the information maven, the one that connects together a bunch of people and brings them together. You're the hub of a wheel, a spoke of a wheel, and your networking ability and your way of bringing disparate parties into one place together is amazing, and be really good for diplomatic careers as a negotiator. Mercury carried the staff of peaceful negotiations. Okay. 11th house, Mercury in the 11th house, Mercury in the 11th house. Well, in the 11th house, Mercury is extremely involved still in career because this is the gains of the career. So you're still in the career milieu. I've seen a lot of Mercury 11th house, chief financial officer, marketing, sales directors, stuff like that. Getting into sales as well, because you have to meet a lot of people, because the 11th house is social groups, groups of influence, networking, large groups of belonging. And so this is somebody who's very good at that. This is a house of movement makers like Martin Luther King, Maria Montessori. If you have strong planets in your 11th house, you want to move the masses. And of course, Mercury is the orator. Martin Luther King has strong placements in his 11th. I can't remember if Mercury's there, but being a move the masses writer, orator, communicator, idea expresser, right? You want to change the collective sphere of society at large. Groups of belonging, rules of engagement for societal structures may fascinate you. And you may be somebody through communication and ideas, speech, or writing has an impact on that field of reality. Your sibling, one older than you, might be very friendly with you because that's the house of the sibling, one older than you in birth order. And you may have a natural exchange of energy, friendship, and ease with each other, especially given there will be a sextile to your first house. Mercury up here is very good, very, very good at imagining, well, that's not the right word, of plotting a kind of trajectory of wish fulfillment. Like, what are you wanting to create in your life? What are your dreams that you want to enact? So this is the kind of person who has a journal, maybe morning pages, free association if you like, but you're also able to conceive and write down what it is you want to accomplish. And a lot of you know that when we write things down, they're more likely to happen. And you're like one of those people who probably knows it. So you may have a 5-year plan diary or something like that, where you're conceiving of your dreams and wishes, and you're giving yourself more than a wistful fantasy. You might actually have a strategic game plan, and you've plotted it all down for yourself. There's something called the benefactor ally feature here. Mercury can be a schmoozer, right? But when Mercury is in your 11th house, there are going to be the types of people you encounter on the regular who want to support you, who want to be an ally, a patron, who want to give you a leg up in life. And these types of people are infused with mercurial elements. So they are maybe networkers themselves. They might be in positions of high power in finance. They may be somebody who is a broker of a deal or a negotiator. And those kinds of people are naturally inclined to want to step into your world and be of assistance. Okay. So look for the possibility that that's how you derive the type of support you need in life, especially to advance your purpose and your career. It depends on what other planets you have in your 11th house, right? But it's to rely on the goodwill of friends and people who wish to help you in this life, because they will be there for you when you ask for help, including the sibling one older unless there's malefic problems going on in the chart. Right. I have somebody I'm thinking of who has Mercury there and did network and schmooze professionally, was a chief financial officer and merger and acquisitions, but he had a problem with Saturn up there and ended up in a very constricted relationship with the sibling one older. But that would have been fine if Saturn hadn't been in the mix. All right. So finally, Mercury in the 12th house is extremely spiritual. Okay. This is where you are in the house of deep spiritual liberation or awakening. Mercury is the thinking and analytical and intellectual energy. If an awakening is to occur in this life through Mercury, it's through information that you've digested, through literature, words, books, or the voice of the guru himself or herself lecturing you about what is true and real. So the spoken word of a spiritual teacher or the written word are equally important. With this energy of Mercury here, your mind is curious and wants to know more. It's like Neo in the Matrix with that splinter in his mind. You kind of know that things are not what they seem, and you're determined to get to the bottom of it. Your curiosity won't kill this cat. It will awaken it. Schrodinger's cat, is it live or dead? It's neither. It's a superposition until we open the box. This thought experiment probably grabs you by the, you know what, down there and makes you intrigued because your mind is seeking deep knowledge and true wisdom. You may remember past lives. You may be born into a life in which you can recall snippets, bits and pieces, or entireties of past life memories. If you want to go for hypnosis, you'll probably be good at remembering. However, Neptune is the god of hypnosis, mesmerism. So look to Neptune's relationship to Mercury in your 12th house to know how apt you are for hypnosis. Mercury here, of course, opens up all the moksha houses 4 and 8, opens a channel of occult knowledge, wisdom, and mystery, and he activates both 3rd and 9th houses of learning. You have a thirst for knowledge. It can be spiritual knowledge, wisdom. It can be occult knowledge and wisdom. You are thirsty to learn in this lifetime. You will continually acquire knowledge. You like to do things alone because this is like the hermit in the cave. This is the ashram. This is the solitudinous place. You could work in jails or hospitals, but if you do, you'd be more administrative, brokers, deals, paperwork as well. The energy of the 12th house can be very much about international barter and trade. I want you to think about the spice trade or long distance ships traveling, to in the ancient days to procure products from another land and bring it to your country or land. That is embedded in the 12th house. And there's a strong quality about that in our modern world where we translated that more than shipping lanes into like digital sales and international revenue that is without borders. And so if you are in the modern world, that could be very good for you. Otherwise, you could be a seafaring trade captain, sure, or whatever, on a ship or on a cargo ship or some kind, or cargo plane. But if you're doing international commerce of any kind, real time, like on trains and planes, or you want to be a mule though on a plane. That would be a dark side of Mercury, a slippery, sneaky trickster mule, shuffling stuff internationally across borders in our hidden pockets of our suitcase or clothes, right? Or worse, orifices. So that's the dark side of Mercury there. The positive side is you're just involved in international barter, trade, commerce, e-commerce may be a part of it. And you might have a good facility and you might do really well with it, right? It might not be, it might be a natural place for you. I kind of like you there as well, like in terms of the archetype of the energy of your eternal youthfulness, right? Persevering throughout your life. And that's because this part of the chart, houses 1 and 2, houses 12, 1 and 2 can represent our childhood years. And there's something in the 12th house is kind of like the prenatal zone a bit. So there's something about carrying forward past life, youthful spirit into this lifetime to embody the archetype of the young one, the curious one, the childlike wonder and awe. The spirit of, kids. They're always curious before they get the curiosity knocked out of them by parents who are fearful, right? They're, curious. George, the old cartoon book when I was a kid, was about how we have childlike curiosity and we should explore it. And, I think you're eternally curious. I think that the best thing you may have is to ability to pursue curiosity lifelong and bring that, you've brought it forward into a disposition in this life, into the character itself. And again, because we have isolation places like hospitals and jails and mental asylums here, if you're in a mental health field, I've seen mental health like social work, more social work, charitable work. You might get involved in charitable work. This is a house of charitable stuff for this underserved, underprivileged people of the world. And you might be very much involved in a lot of charitable work. You could have charitable organizations on the side, or you could be involved in them professionally. So there is that. But you also could be involved in institutions that we associated with 12th house places. You might be working in jails, hospitals, mental health institutions, or in the mental health industry as well. The mind, the mental health, the intellect, the stuff like that. So that's another option for you guys. I say if I had Mercury in my 12th house, which I don't, it's really not a bad place for you to really be curious about the karmic stories and the past life stories, as well as seek spiritual enlightenment through knowledge, wisdom, and teachers. Alrighty, that's what I've got for you guys. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm having a lot of challenges with the mic. I hope it went well with this one. I'm trying to get it not to, every time I move my head, the Shure mic doesn't hear me, but I can't talk like this, and I'm baffled. I got a lot of baffling here. So hopefully that worked out. And thanks for bearing with all of my technical issues. And I'll see you guys soon. This is, we've already put out the sun in the, I should have introduced it that way. The sun in the houses, and we already put the moon in the houses out, and this is Mercury through the houses. See you soon. Don't forget, everything about me is down below. Substack, Patreon community, classes I'm teaching, LoriLothian.com. Go check it out so you don't miss a thing. I teach many classes each year. I mean, dozens of classes. So if you want to learn astrology, come learn with me. I'll see you there. Learning, that's Mercury. Come learn with me. Hello, Astro Curious Soul. This is your overview of Sky Reader, and I want to tell you a bit about the program. I'm going to show you the website that I'm hosting it at, LoriLothian.com. I want to share a bit about my excitement for this course and why I think it might be right for you. First of all, if you're one of those people who watches all of my videos and then ask me these very intelligent questions in the comments all of the time about why this and why that and how this and how that, then you're probably already ready for this course, because it is your curiosity about how to read the sky. That is what Sky Reader is for. Astrology is about the map of time. It's so simple. It's like a GPS of time. And once you learn the basic language of your natal chart, then you'll learn some easy to use timing tools that even a beginner can learn with me. You're going to begin to navigate your reality with a better flow, a better ease, a better kind of sense that you know how to move through the world in a way that has your best interest at heart, because you're flowing with the things that are happening anyway. You're moving in the direction that the sky is taking you. So instead of resisting, instead of digging your heels in, or even going in a misdirection temporarily, the universe always course corrects. You can move wholeheartedly with great faith in the universe into the path that the sky is opening for you. Now, life is full of ups and downs, and astrology can't take those away. So even learning to read your sky doesn't mean you learn to avoid any of life's normal storylines. It means that you now have your eye on the ball, you have your heads up of timing your best life. And sometimes timing your best life is nothing more than being able to navigate what you can see coming and respond to it in a more mature, aware, and present way. You know, I had this big calamity happen a while ago, and I could see that I was being grabbed by the sky. And this interpersonal difficulty wasn't just about the other person. It was about the sky playing out in the real world, real-time sky, relative to my personal Aquarius rising natal chart. And because I realized it was just the sky playing out, I was able not to become interacting with the ordeal in a reactive way. So there's a lot of really good ways you can use astrology to do your life better. A lot of my students come back every single year. If you take my class once, you get to take it again and again forever. Plus, you get to keep the content as well and upgrade yourself. And when you come back as a student for the second time, it is 75% off, which is incredibly amazing, given that each time there's new content and new guest teachers, as well as, of course, me teaching you to read your own sky and time your best life. So this is the website, LoriLothian.com/sky-reader. If you want to find that way, or just Google LoriLothian.com and Sky Reader, and you'll find this page usually showing up in the search engine. Now, throughout the month of August, we have our early bird discount rate of $397. The course is $555, and that is actually a deal for the 7 weeks with me, plus the live calls and the Q&As, plus moderating staff, teaching staff helping me, and a Facebook group and a Discord group this year as well. Now, Read Your Own Sky, 7-week foundation. Here you go. I'm not going to redo this. This is a little video of me explaining it to you that's already uploaded to the website. Now, you can do monthly installments in payment plans if you need to, if money is any issue for you. For those of you in really deep need, like, you know what I mean, like needs-based tuition kind of discounts, you'll have to reach out to my team, and you'll see that the information for that will be available here on the website, but it would be hello@inbox.loriLothian.com. But really, the course is already well priced. So here we have me with a funny picture of me. Thanks, team. I love it. I look like I'm very happy, and I'm wearing white. Isn't that sweet? And then one of the things I will show you about, not the whole sales page, is what the program is actually about. So here's some of the outline of the actual material. As you can see, we have what I call the big four. You're going to learn about the most. This is the second class. The first one is your absolutely slow start, super kindergarten hand-holding level to introduce you to the very basic tenets of how to read a sky, what the sky looks like, and what the ingredients of the sky are made out of. So that's your overview course. Some of you may not need that. Some of you may have been well established at astrology already, and for you, this will be extremely boring. But everyone who knows me knows that I think that the foundations in a beginning class, just understanding the language right away, is going to be crucial. You're learning a new language like French or Greek or whatever, and you're not going to get it all at once. It's going to take time, just like osmosis, like more exposure to it. So this is our week one, slow start overview. And then we move into the course itself. You can go to the website and click the details, the big four of the 12 houses, planetary dignity, planets and aspects, time lords, helmsmen, and annual profections. Now, this last part of the course, this is your golden ticket to success. You might think you know about, for example, annual profections. Well, I've been teaching annual profections for years, and I've got some insider trading tips there for you about how to use it in a way you may not have heard of before. And it's so easy to use that you could teach your kids and children and, friends and fam to use it once you get the lay of that land. And solar returns, of course, the birthday chart. Everyone loves their birthday chart. It gives you a whole snapshot of everything that happens at a given age. Again, I've taught this class many times, and I've also done this for clients for 7 or 8 years, and you'll be learning a few things you won't find anywhere else about how to read that solar return chart and understand what happens in the year. Everything about this course leads to how to time your life. This is not a course that's teaching you how to navel gaze. I'm not here to show you the quirks of your personality in the simulation called life. I'm not here to help you navigate your past and talk about why it happened. Those are not the courses we're teaching. We're teaching you how to read the sky so you can use the GPS metric of the sky, astrology, as a map of time to time your best life. So this is a course that teaches you to become an forecaster or a navigator of reality in a more successful way. So reminding you of that. I get people in this class who want to talk about my Chiron, or my Pluto. And I'm like, nah, no, we don't do that. This is not going to dive into your archetypal, character in the simulation, your wounds and stuff like that. We're learning to teach you how to time your life in this particular class. All right. Now, this is my 7th year teaching, as a lot of you know, so I've gotten to know a lot of the issues that come up, and that was just one of those issues that is routinely showing up. We have 7 core classes. We have 28 actual sessions. We have teaching team Q&A plus me on my own Q&A. So you've got a couple Q&As to choose from per week. We change the time. So everywhere in the world, you'll probably be able to make one. Everything I do has a course replay. Everything I do is loaded into the teaching platform for you to keep forever. If you can't make the live classes, if you can't make any of the Q&As, you can still come and learn from me. However, I'm not reselling this course. I have never resold this course as a self-study. So if you really want to jump in, this would be your chance. These are, and I always say I may not teach it next year. It's always possible with 2 books in my on the shelf to finish, 2 books to finish, 1 astrology, 1 spiritual awakening, and actually 1 fiction book. I would like to get those written in the next year. So just be aware of that. This can be an introduction to my next course next year, Mapmaker, and also Codebreaker. In other words, this would give you the basic understanding to jump into my more intensive and more advanced courses next year. Now, I have guest workshops every year. Last year I had 4 teachers. Now I have 6. This is just bonus content. This is just extra material for you to enjoy. So we begin on October 1st. Every Thursday we have guest teachers. And I will see if I can figure out where on my website that my team put that. But just so you know, those guest workshops will teach you some very fundamental, fun things to do in astrology. So here we have it. 6 ways to see where it can leave. Lovely, lovely team headlines here. So one of my colleagues and students, former students, Sinette Caldwell Barr, is doing the 4 Purushara. I always can't say this word, Purusharthas, and this is a great tool of understanding where your purpose, your prosperity, your spiritual liberation, and your pleasure and your money stuff lie in your chart. So I think you'll enjoy that. It's easy to learn. It's very powerful, and it really does help you see how to navigate life. Mel is going to be teaching where in the world you might want to live or travel based on astrology and how you can look at your astrocartography chart. And we'll also have Laura Basseni teaching about the Cosmic Wellness Blueprint. She is a health coach, but also a medically trained astrologer, like medical astrology. And you'll learn some basics about finding your own energetic elemental and modality elements for better health and wellness, and also prevention, I suppose. Donnie Lim, my colleague, who's very much an expert on all things Venus. You guys may have seen him on my channel with me doing world astrology. He's really fun to hang with. Is teaching the divine feminine cycles for timing, okay? Divine feminine cycles and timing. And so he'll be taking you down the Venus conversation road for her cycles and how to use that in your life for all ways to move forward, especially with love and pleasure and desire and money. Justin McClure is an electional astrology teacher today for us in our course, and he will teach you how to choose the best time to launch your business, make that phone call, hire that lawyer, whatever, get married, etc. Electional astrology teaches you some of the basic understanding that when you begin something, then you set in motion that thing forever. In other words, it bears like a birth chart stamp. So knowing when to launch something into motion is important. It's funny, a lot of us astrologers on YouTube do this all the time. When we want to do something big and splashy or promote something, we'll look for a very good sky and a very good time of day in that sky to put it out for you guys on YouTube. So you'll also notice all of a sudden every astrologer is emailing you on the same day. A lot of us are using electional times. Tara and Renee will be teaching us the cosmic magic of numerology when you blend it with astrology. I love this combination. I've been doing this for myself for years. So if you want to learn how to illuminate your reality by making these 2 pieces of the real estate, numerology and astrology, 2 occult disciplines come together, that's your ticket to fun. All of these courses on Thursday evenings, okay, at 6 p.m. Pacific time, are available for you for replay and self-study, and you get to keep them forever. But if you attend live, of course, you can ask questions for the teacher and be engaged in a live learning process. Now, just alone, these courses would be easily costing a couple $100 for 6 courses. So you can see what a deal Sky Reader really is. We come together every single Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Adjust for your time in Europe. Usually you guys are 8 hours difference than we are in Pacific time, but ask Siri, Google, or timeanddate.com, etc. So you know exactly when we're coming together. And here we have a lovely little schedule drawn up of all of the times for everything to happen. You could just take a look at that by going to the website, screenshot it or whatever, but there you are. So we may not repeat this live edition. I always say that. You always never believe me, but there will be a point, 7th year teaching, you get the 7-year itch, which is a Saturn cycle, that I may have to take a break in order to write some of these books that I need to get done or that I want to get done. So go ahead, Facebook group, Discord group. It's not where I'm monitoring your homework, but you do get homework. It's where you got collaboration and support from my moderators, encouragement. You can tag me or my moderators for help, but I'm not there checking your homework like you're being certified by me to become an astrologer, but it is a very useful group. Other students ahead of you or former students will probably be there. People help each other when you're confused, and my moderators will also be astrologers who are also supporting you when you have questions about what you're doing. Nobody in this course is doing the work for you. You do get homework. It's totally optional. It's to practice the methods you're learning as you learn them. All right, so here we have it. We're at the end of it. These are some great people who decided my students to give me some wonderful testimonials over the years in the various classes I've taught. You're seeing a lot of my last class group, the Divine Timing Masterclass. Give me some commentary there. But Sky Reader, people come back every year to do it over and over again because it actually is a lot of fun. So I hope some of you will consider joining me. And I am so excited. We have a nice little gathering of 29 countries and 325 students already signed up. And we are well supported to make sure that you have a good time and that you don't get lost as you go along. I do have staff, I have teaching assistants, but it is me in that Zoom room for 2 hours. It usually ends up being 2 hours every single Saturday. And I'm also available in one of the weekly Q&As of the 2 each week. All right. Thanks, guys. Don't forget, this is just an overview. Hopefully it gives you some lay of the land. Go to LoriLothian.com/sky-reader.
Lunatic Astrology.